Well, I don't usually believe in telling the backstory of a video. I think that's awkward and not necessarily helpful. But I'm going to do it here. This video has a certain amount of backstory which may not be interesting to you. I was sitting over where that light was too glaring to shoot the video. These chairs are very heavy. I am physically diminished from renal failure and probable cancers, and being on my back in one facility or another, hospital in Mexico, hospital and now nursing home / rehab in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm meant to use a walker at all times. My physical therapist has said, you no longer need to use the walker. You've demonstrated you walk fine without it. But in the facility, if you're seen without it, you get yelled at. My renal failure has me using a catheter bag. I'm experimenting with all kinds of different ways to carry the catheter bag that don't restrict me. If I hook it on my belt, it allows me to leave the walker and walk on my own recognizance. I get yelled at for that because the bag is supposed to be low. And I did not say, I came this close to saying, I'll lower it later, asshole. It doesn't have to be low all the time. I'm so mad. I'm so mad. Institutions, I'm mad that I no longer can use the expression wander off the reservation, and I understand why that's politically oppressive. Somebody help me come up with a better one, because I wander off the reservation. I do, and I like to, and I need to. If I go out in front of the facility to walk, I get told, no, we don't want patients in the parking lot. They could get hit every 4 minutes when a car comes through. And if you wander down that far, then if you fall, no one will find you and you'll bleed to death and die. The word be careful is like the watchword of this place. And it doesn't support the occupational therapy, the rehab part. This place is about 50% rehab, and the rehab is dynamic and wonderful. But the interests of the rehab to help you get independent are flying in the face of the demands of the system, which are to be careful. You can't live a life being careful. In the height of the COVID, when people would say, be careful, I would say, I don't accept that. The one I like is take care, which means don't take stupid risks. But when you stop taking risks, you stop being alive. And I want to scream that at the top of my lungs around here. If you stop taking risks, you stop being alive. And I also need the resources of this place, need the OT, need the physical therapy. I need all that. But how to err on both sides, err on the side of caution sometimes, err on the side of risk. If you don't risk, you're not alive. So I take my walker for walks. If they say in the building you've got to use your walker even though Allison has cut you loose of the walker, okay, I take it for walks. I don't lean on it, I drag it behind me and say, I'm taking it for a walk. And if Betty says, keep it close to you, I'll shove it a few inches ahead and say, look, it's close to me. When I was in the Catholic seminary, 4 years of high school, Quigley in Chicago would bring in 10 times as many guys as ever were going to be priests, knowing that these guys are freshmen in high school. They don't know what they want. Most of them are going to leave. But they wanted to shape us to think like priests so that they kept us from hanging out with other regular high school kids. We had Thursday off and went to school on Saturday so we wouldn't lose our vocation by hanging out with normal people. And then as an experiment in the Diocese of Chicago, which was big and free-thinking, they put a junior college in between the minor seminary and the major seminary where you go away and live there. And it was residential, but it was right at the edge of Chicagoland. And they put some of their best and brightest priests there, which was a huge mistake because it was the era in the 60s that lots of people were wandering off the reservation. And we had really creative, free-thinking priests who, to me, it became obvious were lonely. And I went, I'm starting to wonder about all this. And I would go for long walks. And when I went to the rector and said I was leaving, he said, kind of thought you didn't belong here anymore. We've noticed you would go for long walks. It's a bad sign. The institution doesn't like it if you go for long walks. Yesterday I walked all the way around the building knowing that lots of offices faced the sidewalk I was on. And various people would report, there's a patient out there by himself. And there have been bears sighted around here, so that mixed in with it. He could get killed by a bear. Be careful. Be careful. No, I won't. No, I won't. I will not be careful. I will take care. I will do my best to take those risks that make sense and don't take risks to show that I'm a big shot or that I'm what a guy I am. Look, I'm doing some of that here, aren't I? Yes. And then when I recognize that it's going to hurt the feelings of people who are imprisoned in their wheelchair, I'll go back to doing it the normal way because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. But when it's just staff in the hall, yeah, I'll drag that fucking walker behind me. Yes, I will. And I just did laps in here. I just did laps around this conference table because they won't let me walk outside. They won't let me walk in the halls without a walker. In Mexico, when I was reviewing hospitals, one of the hospitals got the review that said they will do anything to keep you there and keep the cash cow from the American coming. Every day they keep you in the hospital, they get to bill you so many thousands of dollars. I'm right at the verge of writing a review like that about this. I won't because I love people here and it might not be totally accurate. But what I want to say is the therapists who want you independent are flying in the face of so many forces that want you to stay dependent. Don't go outside without a nanny. Don't ever do anything by yourself. Don't get big. And I spent 4 years getting big. And then it was necessary. And I got big and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Then I had a huge physical setback, and I'm small. I say I aged 30 years in 6 weeks. So I have to recognize that I have limitations. I have to live with them. Sometimes I get tired, and when I get tired, I get wobbly. And I said that to the activities therapist, physical therapist. That's why push me, get me strong before I get out of here. But God, I got to get out of here. Go smoke a cigarette when I want to smoke a cigarette. Yeah. Whew. I guess that's enough. Sayonara, baby.